I'm Phil Bakelaar, and I'm here with Astrid Zabriskie. And we're talking together about some of the Christian education that takes place within the bounds of the Regional Synod through a couple of organizations. So let's talk about them, Astrid.
Short history?
Yeah.
Well, we could begin with where we are. We are sitting here in a Korean Presbyterian church in Paramus. And it's an amazing thing to me when I look back 15 years ago. My senior pastor and American mentor at Wyckoff Reformed Church was the one that encouraged us and ultimately me to get the ecumenical Christian adult education, Baby Born.
So that was what it started. It started out with the ecumenical focus.
Yeah, we looked around us in Wyckoff, and there is a church on every corner, and we celebrate not seeing each other or knowing what we're doing and how we spend our money. And Willis Jones and I talked about that a lot in the 80s and finally began to discuss what that would look like. After a couple of months, Willis took a call to Scotland, so here I am. And the Pilgrimage School with a Reformed tradition focus came out of that work. I was asked to start that and did that for 3 years as I was asked to, and that's now 7 years ago, so I don't know where God's going with that.
So,
but I hear us talk in many different forums about how we can get people off the couch, how we can wake up that slumbering spirit. We know that we all need to learn and dig deeper in the story and in Scripture. And I don't think it's our job. I have finally come to the maturity level to realize that I would rather, after 15 years of the Fig Orchard and 7 years of the Pilgrimage School, really give thanks for what we have seen. I always leave an event thinking two things, immediately, one after the other. One is, where were those 500 people who really shouldn't have missed this? And my next immediate thought is, but those 50 were blessed.
right.
And I think that's what we have to do, and then God has to send them. Right. We can do our part, but we can ultimately only offer and open the door. We cannot force them to come in and eat.
Well,
and that's the real challenge of everything we do. It's not ideas. It is not knowledge. It is not the opportunity or the energy to produce those opportunities. It is to help the local church invite people.
I think we've heard that through the people we've interviewed here, that they've come out of their churches into the Fig Orchard or Pilgrimage School, been enriched, and then gone back to their congregations with something new to offer.
And here again, I'm grateful for you doing this, because again we have learned something profound. Right. What I've heard from these 6, 7 people has really affirmed in a very positive way. It does happen. I think we're impatient. We want it to happen right now.
Yes, indeed. So the Fig Orchard started 15 years ago, and then the Pilgrimage School started 7 years ago. Fig Orchard was ecumenical. Pilgrimage School was more focused on Reformed perspective, educating elders, deacons, teaching elders.
What was unique to the Reformed tradition.
Unique to the Reformed tradition. And now the event that some people have talked about that's very big is the Becky Pippert event. Now, is that Fig Orchard? Or?
That's an ecumenical event. And of course, I've also learned to smile in that instead of being frustrated. And the problem is simply that both of them are affiliated with the same person. That's why it's confusing.
Okay.
The Pippert event is an ecumenical event because I think, and I have seen it already in the process as it has began, that we truly can be better together if we can get outside our own local agenda and find a topic of ministry or an area of ministry where we can agree something needs to be done. We have the Great Commission in common.
Right. So evangelism is all of us. Right?
we all have to. And if you can find somebody who can help unify us instead of divide us. We had the initial luncheon with Becky present to introduce what she's going to do in the conference, which is in October and January. It's actually a two-part conference, actually here at Pilgrim Church. And about 90 people, mostly pastors, attended. And I know an awful lot of them, and I know that many of them would not celebrate each other outside of the forum. So it
brought them together.
But it brought them together. Right. And for me, that was to see how that worked in that, that event. That's great. That was wonderful.
Yeah, I remember Becky Pippert back from my early Jesus People days.
Yeah.
So she's been around a long time.
She's been around a long time. And she hasn't lost any vibrating or personality traits that she's known for.
That's
in fact,
great.
she has really matured and deepened and broadened her ministry area.
Now, are there other churches, like I heard Wyckoff is doing this incredible thing involving 150 people, and...
We have, Wyckoff Reformed Church was the church that actually came to the Fig Orchard and say, would you bring her back? Because we actually had Becky in '94.
Okay, 13 years ago.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes. And yes, if you really are serious about asking the Fig Orchard to do it, meaning it will be all of us doing it together. And that was agreed to, and Wyckoff Reformed Church gave the first seed money. There have been other churches giving seed money. There has been commitments of one church that has about 35 members on Sunday morning have committed to 10 people, which is more than a third of their congregation. We have, the Spirit is moving. There's energy spreading out there, like ripples in the water. One church asked, one Christian Reformed church bought all their council members out of the Salt Shaker, which is Becky's original book, and asked each one of them to read 3 chapters the first week, then buy a book and give it to someone else and ask the same. Ask for them to read 3 chapters, and in turn, they would do the same.
So it's had a ripple effect, like you say, putting this into play has affected 150 people at Wyckoff and 35 people at this church and council members.
And we share those ideas. As they come forth, we send it out and said, this is what this church is doing. You might consider the same thing. Many are doing Bible studies on one or more of her books.
Great.
In preparation.
Now, some people who are watching this may never have encountered a pilgrimage school or Fig Orchard event. And a couple of people we've talked to have talked about the house calls. So maybe you could explain that for people who are not familiar with that.
Sure. That was an idea that came out of the pilot project of the pilgrimage school in an effort to answer that ultimate question, how do we reach people in the local church? So I think there's value to both, that we meet together, because it's good to be with other people. We all tend to think that we have unique problems in our church, and it's good to get out and find out that we all have issues. So that's important, to get together with people from other churches. But you will never reach, reality is, you do not reach as many people from any one church if you just have big gatherings where you invite everybody. If there is, let's say, for instance, the Bell Harbor Confession, as we all know, there is a preliminary decision to accept that. And that there's an enormous interest out there in knowing about that. And that will need, we're actually talking about training trainers so we can really saturate and get everyone in the local church.
Do local events.
Right. And that would be the household concept, to go out to the church, and you're more likely to have a higher percentage of people participate in your own local church than when 2 or 3 from a church come to a larger gathering. So.
And we'll put a email link on this web page that will allow people, you just click on that link and send Astrid an email. If you have an idea for some kind of program that you believe is important for the local church.
Absolutely. We're always asking. We're here to help.
Good. Do you have anything coming way down the line? What are you're thinking about doing?
Yes, the Fig Orchard is stepping outside of its bounds or mission statement by planning a perhaps youth, young adult event next spring.
Okay.
We see it as a way of reaching the future adults. I, for one, fear the gap we have. I have served on many national boards, and so have you, where the average age is 73, and what's going to happen in 10 years.
Right.
And we thought we would help that along. Roger Nishioka, who's an associate professor at, what's the name of the seminary in Atlanta? At Columbia.
Columbia. Okay.
Yeah. So, and is the best I know in the area of youth and young adult work. I have a lot of experience with him through other organizations in the Christian education department. And Roger has promised to be with us for 3 days next April.
Okay, in April 2008.
Yes, 12 through 14. We have a location in mind. We have not signed a contract, but it's probably going to be at Eastern Christian High School in North Halden.
Oh, okay.
And Roger will be the red thread in terms of content. We are still looking for music/worship to wrap the whole thing in, and if anybody has any suggestions, that would be wonderful. Yes. Everybody we have invited in have had a commercial for their favorite one, and we're not sure how to choose. We have also considered, and I would love, again, the public's opinion on that, or the local church opinion on that, to really have Roger Nishioka just have leadership training, to just train leaders in youth work and young adult work in our area. That may just be why it's not falling into place. There's usually a reason when a plan doesn't come together. So we may just have youth ministry leadership training and young adult ministry training.
I know in our community we're looking to bring on a youth staff worker because we're concerned about the youth. And, I see 2 other churches in the regional synod have ads out for the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of concern.
Yep.
You're good.
Yep.
Well, we're glad that you've pioneered all this work, and that you've
I'm honored.
that you've kept it going through the years.
I don't have a choice.
And we'll pray that God
Please.
will continue to bless that work. And we look forward to the Pippert event and the Nishioka event.
Great.
And we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for doing.
Good.